Hey guys, today I'm going to do a new thing, and I miss gigs, you miss gigs, everyone's missing them, and I have a ton of posters on my wall, which I've collected over the years from my different shows. So I wanted to go through and tell some stories, and if it's interesting to people, that's a bonus. Let me know if it's actually interesting and if you've enjoyed this video. But I just wanted to go through and give a little background of these gigs, these shows, and just talk about them and try and not relive the good old days, but enjoy what's been and what's in the past and what's to come, because gigs will happen again, and I'm just looking forward to that day. But until then, I've got some really fucking good shows under my belt, and let's get on with it. Today's episode is the origin story, the first poster on my wall, and it's not a Mike West show. This is way before I was a bastard country artist. This is when I was in my first ever band called Names of the Fallen, and we were originally called Last Rites, but Last Rites was also a goth band in Sweden, so we couldn't use them. But we do have a track called Last Rites. So we went with Names of the Fallen, and I was 19 when we first started that band, so that's over a decade ago now. And this poster is from the Tivoli, which is in Buckley in Wales, and it was Friday the 16th of April 2011, and that was a long time ago, and it feels like an absolute lifetime ago. It was such an interesting gig because we had Stunt Face as the headliner, which was a punk band. Dredrick Tatum was this new metalcore band, and then it was us and Entropy, who were another thrash band from Liverpool. So there was two thrash, one metalcore, one punk. So it was a really weird lineup, but it was super fun. Before we get into that show, Names of the Fallen was started when I was like 18, 19. And the first gig we ever did was we played a battle of the bands for mine and my bassist Didge, our college, and we didn't have a microphone because the microphone for Battle of the Bands was ran through my amp, because the other bands just didn't have the gear, which is a fucking piss take. So when it came to my gig, we didn't have a microphone, so we just had to perform our songs instrumentally with no vocals, and we came second. And I absolutely loved being in Names of the Fallen. It was my first proper band. I was the front man, rhythm guitarist. I was writing all the lyrics. It was the first time I really tried to find a creative voice, and we had an EP come out, and then it kind of like the band fell apart, as most bands do, unfortunately, unless they get really into it, which I think if Names of the Fallen had carried on, I think it would have made some waves, hopefully, but that's probably just my ego talking. But Names of the Fallen, it was doing well. We won. Well, we came second in the Battle of the Bands with no vocals. We beat around for this Battle of the Bands in Manchester. I can't remember when that was, but I know that even though we were a small band, I've always liked to approach things from a marketing perspective, and if we can get the crowd there, then we've won. Basically, we can get the numbers in. And we were the only band, because we were Wirral based, and it was a gig in Manchester. We put a coach on, so you could buy a copy of the EP and a ticket to the gig and get a coach ride as like a bundle deal. So we managed to get like 50 people to this gig, which 50 people to a gig's fucking unheard of. And it was just a really interesting time, because I think, again, if we hadn't had the drummer left to get paying gigs and proper gigs and things, and he left to that, the bassist, who's one of my best friends, he left to go to uni, and it was just me, and the other guitarist was my brother-in-law. So it was us two trying to get it back on track. But once you lose that like spark and that chemistry between the members, it kind of like you're just flogging a dead horse, really. Before all that happened, we were actually a band, and we were playing shows. We were playing through Liverpool and Chester and the Wirral, and it was just a really fucking fun time. And then this is 2011. Yeah, so in 2011, in February 2011, I was walking through a bar. At the beginning of the night, I was stone cold sober, which is what pisses me off to this day. And someone had dropped a pint glass on the dance floor, and I was walking across to go talk to someone, and I slipped and landed on the glass and severed two tendons and a nerve in my hand. So I had to have 2 operations to reconnect the tendons and the nerves, and I still can't feel down that side of my hand, which fucking sucks. But it didn't really stop us, because I had physiotherapy. I was in a cast for over 6 months, but we still played gigs. We just got one of our best friends to fill in on guitar for me, so I was still on vocals, and I've put a picture up here of me performing in a cast, and it didn't stop us. And on this 16th of April, which was one of our last gigs, I think, I was still in a cast. So not only did it not stop us, but it meant that we could do a bit more in terms of songs. It meant that we could like play covers that I didn't have to focus on guitar. And because I've been playing guitar since I was like 12, but I'm not the best guitarist in the world. If I focus, I can, but who the fuck focuses on guitar? So what I did was focus on vocals, and we played a cover of Halo by the band Soil that night. And that's the one I distinctly remember because I remember feeling so fucking like in the moment of it. And it was just a really like, that was the biggest stage we'd played, and it was just a really fun gig, even though there was like no people at this show. And I remember we played Halo, and that was just so fun because when you're in a band and you're practicing in the rehearsal spaces, you can do songs and stuff, but until it's like live in front of people, it just brings a whole new energy. I remember playing Halo, and then last year I opened for Ryan McCombs, the lead singer of Soil, doing an acoustic show, and it was amazing to see, even between those like 9 years, like it kind of come full circle. And remember playing at the Tiv on stage doing Halo, and then getting to open for that lead singer, which, as some fucking idiot playing a guitar in the world, that's a pretty fucking big dream come true. I've been so lucky with this. So we did this gig, and it was with a punk band, and it was a really surreal thing, but you know, unfortunately Names of the Fallen kind of collapsed. And when Names of the Fallen collapsed, it really like gave me a time to like assess myself and what I wanted to do. And obviously, if you lose that spark playing with people that you respect and you love and you want to keep playing with them, if you can't get to do that anymore, you need to reassess how you want to keep playing. Because I remember I absolutely adored being on stage and getting to play songs and, you know, write my own lyrics. And, you know, as a young 20 something, you don't really feel you have a voice, especially like when you work and you're in college and going to other things, and you always are taking in what other people are saying, and you don't get to voice your opinions as much. And as a singer in a band, especially a metal band, when you fucking have a Marshall half stack and you ring that chord and everyone turns around and listens, it's a really addictive thing to have. And I remember when I didn't have that, it was such a weird time to, it was like an itch. It was, you have a craving to do it, but I didn't have the craving to be in a metal or a rock band. And it was around that time that I started listening to, you know, I'd always been a fan of Robert Johnson. I was going on a deep dive of that stuff, and it was around that time I found the American recordings by Johnny Cash in my early 20s, and was like one man on a guitar just talking how he felt and his emotions and the stories. And that was when I picked up an acoustic guitar and realized that my voice was always better suited to being a country singer, or, you know, my version of a country singer. And, you know, the vocals weren't that great in Names of the Fallen. You know, we had, when we were looking for other members to try and fill in slots, we had people messaging being like, this sounds great and I'll join it if you ditch the singer, which was me, who was also the rhythm guitarist, who was also the one recruiting them. So we were like, that's not going to happen. So that kind of just fizzled out as well. But, you know, looking back on the songs and stuff, I wasn't an amazing singer. I wasn't, you know, the best. And to hear what I'm like now and what I was then is a huge transition. But that's because with this is how I found my voice. And I could never write a metal song and play it acoustically. I've never done that for, you know, my own project as Mike West. I've never gone back and used the Names of the Fallen song and restructured it or rewritten it for what I do now. It just wouldn't make sense to. This is who I am, and this is my voice that I think I was missing from Names of the Fallen, but Names of the Fallen was how I got to where I am now. So this was a really fun gig. It was the biggest stage we'd ever played, and although the crowd wasn't there, you know, Entropy we were friends with, and they're such a great band, and it sucks that they disappeared as well. But I think that's just kind of the way of the world. If you're a local band and you don't really break in a while, you just kind of fizzle out, and all the responsibilities take priority. And I'm lucky enough as an acoustic songwriter that I can always gig whenever I want. So with Names of the Fallen, or with any band, if someone wants to book you for a show, you have to go maybe, and then check with the drummer, check with the bassist, check with the other guitarist, and then go back to them and go, yeah, we can do that gig. While I've always been able to, you know, if someone's messaging me for a gig, I can go, yeah, I'll be there, because I don't have to fucking check for anyone. And all I have to do is take a guitar and a cable, and sometimes a cable's not really necessary. As long as I've got my guitar, I can do a gig, which has always been something I've valued as a, you know, bastard country singer-songwriter. But yeah, this was the biggest gig we did for Names of the Fallen, even though the people weren't there. And it was such a fun time, and it was loud, and it was in your face, and it was exactly what I needed for my 20s. And, you know, there's always that what if, and we tried to like pick it up again a few years later, but it just didn't really happen. And it is what it is, guys. But that was the first poster on my gig wall, and I've saved that poster for, you know, going on 9 years now. And it was such a fun time. I always look back and love that time of those shows and those songs. And it's weird how, you know, 9 years ago I was in this metal band, and that's still attached to my bio and about me, though I consider the Mike West who was in Names of the Fallen and myself now with The Next Life as two completely different artists. They aren't even remotely linked, except for being in the same body. But, you know, a lot of time and mileage has passed since then. It's been a really weird experience, and I've just loved every second of it. So this is Friday the 16th of April at the Tivoli in Buckley, with Stuntface, Dredrick Tatum, Names of Fallen, and Entropy. I don't know if this video was of any value to anyone, but let me know if you liked it or not. Let me know if I should just stop. Let me know if there's any gigs you've been to of mine that you'd like to hear me talk about, and I'm going to be going through these chronologically. Thank you so much for listening. I recorded a really shit outro video for this, so I just wanted to come back in and do a better one. So thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed it, please hit subscribe. Check out The Next Life. Check out Into the Van, which is my podcast. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. Peace.